The most famous prehistoric cat in history was never a tiger, and the most terrifying thing about it wasn't its teeth. It was how it used them. Imagine a predator as heavy as a modern lion, built like a bulldozer, with two blades of ivory hanging from its upper jaw. Each tooth was so long and so specialized that if the strike landed incorrectly, the fangs could snap. Yet this animal dominated the Americas for nearly 2 million years. It hunted mammoths, giant bison, camels, and ground sloths the size of elephants. It survived ice ages, climate swings, and dramatic changes in the landscape. Then, almost overnight, in geological terms, it disappeared. Its name was Smilodon fatalis, and despite being one of the most recognizable animals to ever live, it is still widely misunderstood. The nickname saber-toothed tiger is inaccurate. Smilodon was not a tiger, and it was not particularly close to modern tigers. It belonged to a separate branch of the cat family that split from the ancestors of lions and tigers more than 20 million years ago. It was not a prehistoric version of a tiger. It was something evolution built only once. At first glance, the fangs seem almost absurd. The upper canines of Smilodon could extend roughly 7 inches beyond the gums, making them the longest canine teeth of any land predator known. They curve downward like polished daggers, giving the animal an appearance that seems almost too dramatic to be real. For decades, scientists struggled with a simple question: how could teeth this long actually work? Modern big cats kill by clamping onto the throat and suffocating their prey. That strategy depends on short, sturdy teeth and extremely powerful jaws. Smilodon was different. Its fangs were relatively narrow and vulnerable to side-to-side stress. If it tried to hold a violently struggling animal the way a lion does, the teeth could break. So the fangs were not designed to grip. They were designed to finish. To understand how, you have to look beyond the teeth and examine the body attached to them. Smilodon was not built for speed. It had a broad chest, exceptionally muscular shoulders, thick forelimbs, and a compact, powerful body. Its tail was short, and its spine was more rigid than that of modern cats. A cheetah is engineered to chase. A lion balances speed with strength. Smilodon abandoned speed almost entirely in exchange for raw power. Its forelimbs were among the most robust of any cat that has ever lived. Muscle attachment sites on the bones indicate tremendous strength, likely far exceeding that of living lions. This was an animal built to overpower prey at close range. It likely waited in ambush, launched suddenly, and used its forelegs to pin animals beneath its weight. Then came the most extraordinary part of the attack. Smilodon could open its jaws to nearly 120 degrees. A modern lion reaches roughly half that angle. This enormous gape was not about bite force. In fact, Smilodon's jaw-closing muscles were weaker than those of many modern cats. Its true weapon was its neck. Massive neck muscles drove the skull downward like a hammer. The fangs were inserted into vulnerable tissue in the throat and neck, where they could sever major blood vessels and the trachea in a single, precisely placed strike. This was not a crushing bite. It was a controlled plunge. One accurate blow could end the struggle in moments. No living predator kills in quite the same way. For much of the last century, Smilodon was often portrayed as a solitary monster, but one of the most remarkable fossil sites on Earth tells a different story. At the Brea Tar Pits, asphalt trapped animals for tens of thousands of years. Prey animals became stuck, attracting predators, which were then trapped themselves. Among the hundreds of thousands of fossils recovered, Smilodon is the most abundant large predator. More important than the number of bones is what many of them reveal. Some individuals suffered devastating injuries, shattered limbs, damaged spines, and severe arthritis. Injuries that would have made hunting impossible for months or even years. And yet, these animals survived long enough for their bones to heal. A large ambush predator with a broken leg cannot hunt successfully on its own. The most likely explanation is that other Smilodon brought food and tolerated injured members within the group. If that interpretation is correct, Smilodon was not merely a powerful predator. It was a social one. That changes the story entirely. A coordinated group of saber-toothed cats could challenge prey far larger than any individual hunter could tackle alone. And Ice Age America offered no shortage of gigantic targets. The landscapes of the Pleistocene were filled with mammoths, mastodons, giant bison, horses, camels, and enormous ground sloths. This was a continent crowded with megafauna. For nearly 2 million years, Smilodon thrived in this world. It spread through North and South America and became one of the most successful predators of the Ice Age. There is no evidence that it was declining before the end. Quite the opposite. By every indication, it was extraordinarily well adapted to the environment in which it lived. Then, around 10,000 years ago, that environment changed with astonishing speed. The mammoths disappeared. The mastodons vanished. Giant ground sloths went extinct, and Smilodon followed them into oblivion. One of the most overlooked questions about Smilodon is how its young learned to use those enormous teeth without breaking them. A 7-inch canine was an extraordinary weapon, but it was also a liability if used incorrectly. Juvenile Smilodon likely spent years growing into their adult fangs while watching older members of the group hunt. During this period, they may have relied on smaller prey and repeated practice before attempting the precise throat strikes that made adults so deadly. That means every successful saber-tooth was not simply born with its famous weapons. It had to master one of the most specialized killing techniques ever evolved by a mammal. In a sense, Smilodon was not just a powerful predator, it was a predator that had to be taught how to become one. Why this happened remains one of paleontology's most fascinating debates. Some scientists point to rapid climate change as the Ice Age ended. Temperatures rose, vegetation shifted, and the ecosystems supporting large herbivores were transformed. Others emphasize human expansion into the Americas. People armed with coordinated hunting strategies and sophisticated tools may have placed intense pressure on already vulnerable megafauna. There is also a more controversial hypothesis involving a possible cosmic impact or airburst around 12,900 years ago, which may have triggered widespread fires and abrupt climatic disruption. Each explanation has supporting evidence, each has unresolved questions. The most likely answer is that several forces converged at once. When the prey disappeared, Smilodon lost the foundation of its existence. That is an important distinction. Smilodon did not become a poor predator. Its world changed faster than it could adapt, and that may be the most compelling part of its story. Because Smilodon was not a failed experiment, it was one of evolution's greatest achievements. Its body was engineered for a highly specialized hunting strategy unlike anything alive today. It possessed extraordinary strength, remarkable cooperation, and a killing technique refined over millions of years. For 2 million years, that design worked. Then, the ecological conditions that supported it vanished. In a museum, it is easy to focus only on the fangs. They are dramatic, unmistakable, and iconic. But the fossils reveal something far more interesting than a fearsome set of teeth. They reveal an animal that likely cared for injured companions, an animal capable of teamwork, an animal perfectly adapted to a vanished world. The image of Smilodon as a mindless monster misses the point. It was a highly specialized predator, and quite possibly a socially complex one. Its extinction is not a story about weakness. It is a story about how even the most successful organisms can disappear when the ecosystems they depend on unravel. The next time you see a reconstruction of Smilodon, look beyond the fangs. Look at the shoulders built to wrestle giants. Look at the neck that powered a killing strike unlike any other in nature. Look at the healed bones that suggest injured individuals were not abandoned. And remember that for 2 million years, this cat stood among the most formidable predators on Earth. Smilodon did not fail. The world it was built for disappeared. And when that world vanished, one of evolution's most extraordinary predators vanished with it.